I'd like to call the special board meeting of RSU 74 Board of Directors on August 12, 2020 at Carribeck High School. Would you all please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Point of order. Political signs and such are not allowed in our meetings.
Liberty and justice for all. And I was told we were doing this to be good role models, and this is unique.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. We can, let me check with our attorneys a little more, and I'll get back to you on that. If that's good with everyone.
Good, being a good role model.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Motion to allow, to waive the limitations upon public participation in our meetings to allow the public to discuss items 2 prior to the board discussion. Second. Did everybody hear the?
No.
Okay, the motion is to waive the limitations put on to the public during our meeting to allow public discussion of the agenda item prior to the board discussion.
We have a second?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 1, to see if the board will approve the 2020-2021 athletic season. I'm going to allow public discussion first. Do we have any public discussion on this? Yeah, you have a question?
That wasn't on, this agenda picked up, so.
There I'm looking at.
Okay, they just told me there's 2.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Fred, can you please come down here and talk so we can hear? Hang on just a second. How many out there are going to want to talk, please? Okay, thank you.
How can we do sports if we don't know if we're at school yet? That should be number 1.
Okay? BJ,
I'm pretty loud.
please, thank you.
So my question would be is, will our guidelines be by the NPA? If we have a sports season, will they make the call whether we do or don't? Or will schools start making that decision like, you just don't have sports?
It will be discussed,
Okay.
when the board discusses that, that will be an intricate part of what we're going to discuss, BJ, the MPA guidelines. And I think that's kind of like what every other school district is going on, but we'll find the feel of the board when we get to that.
And if so, we'll be able to start Monday. Monday is the start date, right, the 17th?
Yes, but I don't know the answer to that either until we discuss it, but it will be discussed. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
are they going to have an opportunity to ask questions after we discuss it? It seems a little, it seems a bit backward because they don't know what to ask, but we may be answering questions that are going to be brought forward in the explanation of what the sports program is.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to flip that?
We would need, the motion that we made to do it the way that we're doing it is accepted, we would need. Yep, go ahead.
We have to frame it out such that public comment could participate during the board's discussion before the board takes a vote.
What he said? Yeah.
Okay, is that your motion?
That's my motion, yeah.
Okay, we need a second. Seconded, thank you. All in favor? Does anyone oppose? Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Finnegan, can you lead us through where we're at with athletics?
Who seconded that?
Laura did.
I'm taking notes tonight as well as presenting at the meeting. So thank you for your patience. Good evening, everyone. Just when we talk about point of order, a special board meeting is as such that the topic on the agenda is what the board is required to discuss technically amongst themselves. That would be the rule of special meeting. What they've done tonight is that they've suspended that rule to allow public participation during when the board discusses that item. So that's what just happened, okay? And why we have the rules we have, and I'm sorry. That's a procedural update. So as recent as an hour ago, I spoke with a superintendent friend who also serves on the interscholastic executive committee at the MPA. They were scheduled tomorrow to meet to discuss the fall sports season. And if it feels like there's been sort of an ebb and tide, like, hey, July 1st we can start, everybody remembers hearing that in the MPA guidance. And then what's happened is that same committee, and when I say there's an interscholastic sports executive committee, there are multiple committees within the MPA. There's a soccer committee, cross-country committee, okay? Every sport has a fall sport, every sport has a subcommittee. But the fall sports have subcommittees. Within those subcommittees, there are also medical personnel, the Trainers Association, and frankly, there's medical doctors, nationally recognized medical doctors serving on those committees. And it would seem, like most everything else that seems to come out of my mouth, and if it feels like we don't have the answers, it's because there hasn't been a decision made. And as of 5 o'clock today, it's likely that committee won't make the decision tomorrow. Going back to Mr. McNair's question. And in short, I think what folks are waiting for, with your comments, sir, is schools and superintendents and executive committees are working on reading, writing, arithmetic first, and how we deploy that this fall, and sort of sports. And this is not a judgment or a statement of how I feel. Sports would come second to sort of those school decisions. What are we going to do about school? So I think at this point in time, what would be helpful to me is to hear from board members, at least, and maybe the community, on sort of what your thoughts are on that. Because at the end of the day, probably my recommendation is going to be to ask the board to approve a fall season per the MPA guidelines, very specifically per the MPA guidelines. That will probably be my recommendation, unless the board community says, no, it's not safe, we shouldn't play sports. Or the board community says, we're not going to listen to the guidelines, and we're going to play anyway. And I should tell you, it is a local decision.
I've got two questions. One is, in the absence of a ruling, Chris wants to get his program running, right? And so why would we not, in the absence of a ruling, at least allow the coaches to staff their practice? And the other question is, I know there are other schools in training right now, and I mean, wanting to be competitive, we're going to be behind in terms of hours on the field. So my recommendation would be, in the absence of a rule, we create our own, and we can always apologize afterwards.
Okay, thank you. Ellen?
Yes, I went to both the meetings, a parent to the school, and Mr. Tracy said forcefully that he was 100% committed to kids coming back to school 100% of the time. Now, I think that's incredibly important. Kids have been out of school for 6 months. And we shouldn't be doing anything that would risk our not being able to do that. One of the things that came out, a recent guideline, was from the American Association of Medical Colleges, which said, and I'm Activities that cause people to exhale forcefully near each other, such as sports or singing, should be avoided according to the guidelines. I really, the kids who want to play sports, I have a great deal of sympathy for them. My kids have played sports, multiple sports. And it's a bad loss. And there are people who couldn't go to the Olympics this year because of this. But our priorities need to be in place. And the first priority is to make sure that we can start delivering academically for our children. So I think that this fall season needs to be suspended, and we can do that as well. Whatever they say. We can do other ways of getting kids active, which is extremely important. But I think that it is risking too much for the sake of too little. There are 600 kids in the school. For the value to the couple of scores who play sports, I don't think it's worth it. And I would ask you to understand that, and I have sympathy for those kids who've been looking forward to it. It's going to be a reduced program anyway. I think we need to, first of all, get a grip on this pandemic.
Okay, thank you. Bob?
I have a few questions. First, who's our athletic director?
Currently, Mr. Mahoney is serving as the middle school athletic director.
Yep.
And we technically don't have one, so that means the work of that, the oversight of high school athletics falls on the high school principal.
So, Mr. Richards would be coordinating any sports season or athletes that we have. Okay. So, is there a reason that we can't take the season separately? And we're doing the entire 2021 athletic? We have direct guidance from CDC, DOE, MPA right now for the fall season. But we don't know, I mean, why are we discussing winter, spring, when, why is that even a possibility right now being discussed when we don't have a back-to-school plan?
So would you recommend, ask if we just take the fall
I think we should
season
take
on
it
its
by
own, on its
season.
own merit, and then we'll
Yes,
worry
I do.
about, okay?
Is that a motion?
If
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve the fall sports season, love season after the reopening plan is approved, but whether that's done or not.
Motion to amend.
We don't have a motion. What?
if we opened it up,
We opened to see if the board would approve, there was no motion.
And we're still at comment on
okay,
we
good.
have, so we could amend, since there's
The agenda.
nobody's made this motion. So-
Correct.
So we could amend.
You just made it.
I did, but there wasn't one prior.
Yeah.
So the motion been made a second.
Yes. All in favor of the board approving a fall season for Fairbank High School 2020? Is that,
That's my motion, but is
Yep.
everybody done commenting and discussing that? Because,
okay, we have a second, we just need discussion on that.
First, and second.
Larry.
Motion for the board to approve the fall 2020 athletic season.
based on MPI guidelines.
Yep.
You want to add?
Yes. We need this, we're in a motion, we need discussion. Judy?
So we approve the motion as it's worded. Will coaches need to wait until the MPA makes decisions before they can start practices? Or do they start practices?
No.
Yeah, please.
My recommendation has been that we would let coaches access students as soon as we feasibly can. And we really have sort of quasi been on hold because I haven't had, I've been suspicious of the guidance. There are schools, as you've all stated, that are in the MPA guidelines phase 3, which is accessing students, physically in-person playing, and if it's soccer, they're starting to do drills. I think they're having to use their own equipment, but that's the phase we're moving into, say, for soccer from the MPA guidelines. I'm happy to do whatever the board wants me to do, but that would be, so for me, if the board says approves this tonight, then, we would get commentary out to at least the high school. We need to talk about middle school athletics here in a little bit, but the high school athletic programs to begin accessing students as the facilities and equipment and under the guidance, which is social distancing, masks, where appropriate. So there's a slew of guidance that, as you know, that the athletic programs have to adhere to. So we have to work through to make sure that's all, we have the capacity to do all that. But I would say yes. They would have access to students as soon as.
Larry?
I'd be interested in hearing from any of the coaches that are here, what their thoughts may be on, if they're not interested right now, I'm essentially a new point, but if they're interested in doing it, I'd like to hear their thoughts.
You want to do that now? Or you have
If we can, yeah.
How many fall coaches do we have here? Here we have BJ and Mr. Kaplan. BJ, would you come down and
BJ, that's all right, I'll be Chris. That's all right, brain cramp.
hold me longer?
So I would personally, I think it'd be great to get these kids on the field, camaraderie, get them back into some sort of rhythm. Because besides school sports, AAU softball, AAU basketball, travel, premier soccer, those things have never stopped. They're still going on. I mean, if the virus is going to come here, someone's going to bring it from outside in. I mean, one of the players is going to get it from somewhere else and bring it to us. I mean, there is protocol, there is things that need to be done prior to, I mean, I would love to see it start on Monday, get the wheels rolling, right? I mean, at least see what it feels like. I mean, a lot of these kids have been pretty much shut into their little rooms and haven't been active, you know? I mean, I definitely a danger. I mean, there's no doubt about it, but it's, it's time to get the wheels rolling. So I'm all for it on Monday.
Okay. You have a question?
No, I don't think it's for him.
Okay.
My question is, I wasn't under the assumption that it was any different middle school, high school. My motion's across the board, anything that we fund, and it's our children in our district playing, like, let's approve the fall 2020 season, middle school, high school, let's do it.
And I'm
Okay, right.
did you want me to respond?
Please.
I'm looking for approval for that.
Okay,
What I was going to mention about middle school athletics is they are not sanctioned by the NBA.
right.
And therefore, what many districts are doing, I just talked with a region very close to ours, just outside of our region, close to ours, where they're looking to cancel middle school athletics tomorrow. And they're doing that because they don't have the capacity with spacing, field capacity, busing, to be able to transport and manage their interscholastic, their MPA high school athletics. So I'm not saying that would be what we would do. I mean, we would try, if the goal is to pull off a season, and some semblance of a fall season, that's what the board directs me to do, then that's what we'll do. But I'm just informing you as to what I was arguing and the complications in these places that are ahead of us, doing some of that.
Do we have the capacity?
I don't know. I hear that a lot tonight. Staffing. Ms. Agron, did you want to comment on
Not
capacity?
in our locker rooms, we do not. Probably on the field we do, but not if our kids are in the locker.
You mean middle school locker rooms for middle school athletes?
Middle school or the high school. We just didn't have some social distance.
What is that?
Hang on, Larry. Ellen?
I'm sorry, what question question I'd asked y'all last week, should you approve this, we've got people signed up to hire for these positions, if MSBA, what is it?
MPA.
MPA says it's not gonna be in season, or if the, so they start, let's say the coaches start, and they get together, and then they say, no, we're not gonna do it, or the state then says, we're closing things down. Are we paying the coaches for the entire season?
We discussed that at
You didn't,
last, yes.
no, you didn't have an answer.
No, it was
I asked
going to be
the
prorated.
question, you said you didn't know.
I don't think I answered it, sir.
Okay, please.
What I would recommend is that we would go into the fall season, likely when we issue stipend agreements, I would put a clause in those agreements that would prorate the season as per however many days we participated. And I would be fair with whatever that allotment is, considering people put in a lot of personal time, or coaches put in a lot of, so I would work that out in the fairest way possible with those coaches. But it would be prorated for the season length.
Larry, you have a question?
I'd like to hear from you, Captain.
You have to like,
Thank you. I certainly support the kids getting back onto the fields and into the gyms. It's been a long time for them, and the activities, the sports are an essential part of their learning. Every study in the world shows that kids that are active learn better, behave better, so it's an essential part of their academics and their socialization. It's probably inevitable that COVID is going to hit us at some point, whether it's here or a neighboring community. But once again, what all research is saying is it's not nearly as dangerous for those kids as it is for adults. And we're really treating the symptom, not the problem. The problem is we live in an unhealthy society. The American population is unhealthy. Nearly 48% of the American population has a chronic illness. That's pathetic. If we had a healthy population, COVID would not be something that we'd have to quarantine, and that we'd have to be doing all the social distancing. The distancing and the masks, we're treating the symptom. The problem is we're not healthy. And this is the way we get kids healthy, by getting them moving again. Most of you know that I live locally, and I run into kids all the time that are in the school, and I see drastic changes in their body type. Either they put on COVID weight, or they've lost lean body mass. Very few of them maintain what they had when they left here in March. We're talking, breathing, heart conditions. We already know diabetes is a huge problem with juvenile, and through athletics, everybody's doing their job. Coaches are doing their job, trainers are doing their job, I'm doing my job. Kids are learning, proper nutrition, sleep habits, stress management, weight control, proper weight control, weight maintenance. If the situation does come that the MPA does pull the plug on the season, I highly encourage that we do in-house, that we do an intramural program, that we keep those kids moving. Our kids can use the steel work anyway. They can use the conditioning anyway. Let's keep them moving. It's good for them, and it's good for our community. Thank you.
Bobby?
So if we approve the motion that I made, our administrators will be within those guidelines, and it won't have to come back to us for any other approval. It will just, whether it's in-house, with each other, however it may be, we're just approving that we are going to have some form of a fall athletic season, whether that means competition outside of our school system or within. That's it. Right? That was what my motion was.
That's how I understand it to be.
Okay.
Does anyone have questions on L and A on 117? Is everybody all set with that?
So, I would love for kids to go back into house sports and to be active. And my son has been doing the football clinic.
half. But it is social distance, they wear their masks. How are we playing full contact soccer or full contact football while maintaining social distancing that we are so concerned about in the school system? I just don't understand. It's fine for the kids to go onto a field and to tackle each other playing soccer or football, but they have to maintain a 6-foot distance or 3-foot distance in the school building or on the playground. It doesn't make sense to me. How is it okay in that setting but not in another school?
In short, we're going to be very tight with the NBA guys. Right now, they're not allowed. I think, from what I've heard from Central Maine, there are some conditions that are being allowed, but they're regional or they're within close. We might be able to compete with Madison or someplace very close to the regional where our kids are likely to be with each other anyway. So, but again, the short answer is we're going to follow those NBA guidelines specifically. And just as a side note for this and our next discussion, I am going to reserve the right because I see my job as the chief part of my job is watchdog for our students. And the second part of my job, for students and staff, is watchdog for liabilities for the district. And so I'm not going to be able to allow, if I found out, say, something is a liability to staff, students, families, or our district, then I'm going to have to pull the plug on whatever we're doing.
I want to thank Mr. Kaplan for what he said. It's so important for all children to be healthy, be physically active. And the fact is that varsity sports are an elite. That's an elite group that takes part in that. And it's fine because everybody should be able to shine under normal circumstances. I like what you were saying about the intramural part. Perhaps that's where you put our focus. So many kids have not had activity. And I would like to see where more kids are taking part regularly in physical activity that is socially distant, allows them to be outside a lot and take care of those things. That's really, I can't stress enough how appreciative I am of that part of it. But just because you're doing varsity sports does not mean you're helping those other kids who've been inactive, which are the majority of the kids in the school. So I think we should keep that in mind.
Thank you, Bobby.
I would just like to clarify that nowhere in the motion does it say varsity only though. Like it doesn't, that is not what the motion was, or wasn't singular to varsity anything.
All right,
Chairman, read the motion.
please.
The motion is for the board to approve the fall athletic season based on MPA guidelines. Can we move the motion?
I would move the motion. You need a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. All in favor of the question to be moved? Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
So the motion, sir, to be voted on is motion to approve fall athletic season based on MPA guidelines. We have a first and a second. We just need a call vote, sir.
All in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed?
Okay.
We will be back at 7 o'clock for the next meeting.
5, 7.
Hey, we posted it for 7 o'clock. I would love to do it like that, but I don't know that.
We can start around 5.
We can start around 5 up, okay? I need a motion to adjourn. Second?